Dame Julie Andrews is an Oscar, Emmy, and Grammy winner. She's also a New York Times bestselling author, a mom, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. She and her daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton, have written over 30 books together. But right now, everyone's talking about their latest collaboration, Homework, a memoir of my Hollywood years. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Oh, it's so good to meet you.
Thank you.
And I so enjoyed this book. And I want to start off talking about the title, Homework. The two seem so intertwined here. Can you tell me about that?
I wrote my first memoir about my early years, we wrote together.
About 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago. And it was entitled Home. And I thought Homework would be a great continuing title because it is about the homework I did in a brand new world. This is the Hollywood years, coming to Hollywood, learning about film, learning about myself, growing up, developing, new knowledge. It was huge for me, and I thought that might be a good title.
It was also a way to convey the constant struggle for you between your commitment to work and your love of home.
Yes, and also, what surprised me when reading all the diaries that I kept from the old days is how much work. So it's really a desire to make home and work meld.
Well, you have both worked together extensively. And Emma, I want to know, are there ever moments that get a little bit heated when you're trying to decide the direction of a chapter or the writing that you want to include?
I wouldn't say heated. We definitely disagree sometimes, or we have different opinions, but somehow we always seem to know that we have this unspoken agreement that the best idea wins.
It does.
and then, or the best word choice or whatever it might be. And somehow we both seem to intuitively know it when we hear it. That we both will go, that's it, that's the one. And it doesn't matter
if we go at it enough, not argue, but kind of worry at it enough.
Right.
One of us will say, no, you know what? That is the best idea.
Yeah. And neither of us is prideful about whose idea it was.
No, it's a sort of inner recognition from both of us.
I still imagine, though, that you had to make some tough cuts of the stories to include in here.
Wow, there's so much that is included, and it was mind-boggling, wasn't it?
Well, our first draft was 600 pages long. And the final draft was closer to 400.
Yeah.
So you're right. We did have to make some tough
So was there
cuts.
anything that you had to cut that you wish
our editor, our lovely editor, was wonderful because she said, if you only mention somebody once, it's probably best that you don't put them in the book because it's too many people for your audience to remember. And so stick to the people that are really close and around you. And I think we did mostly
We
that.
tried to do that. And there was also, a few extraneous vacations and Christmases. We
won't include the vacations.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's a lot that isn't in there, but I think all the main things are.
Well, one of the things I especially enjoyed reading about was your time on the set of Mary Poppins.
Yes.
Of course, when you arrived to Hollywood, you had never been on a set, let alone one with so many technical challenges like that. So how did you...
Also learning about, it was a fine, wonderful film to begin learning about film in general because there were so many tricks and special effects and animation and a lot of waiting around. It taught me the essence of patience, too.
And you say that you've never had an acting coach. So how did you overcome any insecurities you had about going toe-to-toe with experienced film actors?
Well, I was as nervous as could be, but I think I think the doing eventually, in doing it enough, learning more, the more you learn, I'm always nervous still, but mostly at what I don't know. And eventually you do know. There's a moment, if you're lucky, when you kind of slide into a role and then you think, okay, now I think I know where I'm going.
You mentioned in your last memoir, Home, that you talked about your family. And with this memoir, you do still go into your family and you share more about your late husband, Blake Edwards.
Yes.
And especially some of his troubles. Why did you want to share that now?
Because it was there, because it was. And he struggled with depression and addiction and his own anxieties and fears. And at least I think I understood him very well. We were married for 41 years and knew each other for 44, so something worked very well.
I think there was a degree to which you also thought that if by sharing his stories and his struggles,
yes,
that it perhaps might be helpful to somebody else.
I did think that, actually.
Who is, you know, who might
if anybody gets an feels some kind of impetus to keep forging ahead or whatever. And there were so many great times, and he was so funny and generous. But yes, there were difficult times too. Any marriage is a bit like a graph, isn't it?
Emma, was it difficult to watch your mom revisit some of the challenging moments?
It was. Yeah, it was. We had some emotional days.
We did.
Yeah,
we did.
But luckily, we tried to structure the days where we'd
You did.
them.
Thank
I tried to
God.
Thank God. Each day, front-loading the difficult stuff in the earlier part of the day so that we could end on a higher note.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of sleepless nights, too, you know, thinking
a lot of
about
dreams.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
But such an interesting exercise. Who was it that said writing a memoir is like reliving your life
twice?
Yeah, all over again.
Well, did you have a moment when you were writing about this and thinking about both your relationship with your late husband and then also the way that you took care of your parents and your family? Did you have a moment where you realized there were some parallels in those relationships?
Good codependent being.
Yes, I've always been a good codependent, I guess. I don't know. Parallels? What do you think, darling?
Well, I think that part of being
codependent,
she is the quintessential caretaker and always has been, and you know, looked after her family of origin for many, many years.
I did,
and later her husband and all of us children, and so it's a role that you have taken on.
I think also it was such a busy life, and until you write about it, you don't have time to think about it because you're so busy doing it and surviving in any given moment, whether it's hard work on a film set or taking the children, as every mother does, to the PTA meeting or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. I want to paraphrase from a review of this book from the LA Times, which says that your book will appeal to any fans of your films, as well as anyone who wants to be reassured that being a celebrity doesn't have to involve scandal. What helped you stay grounded and survive Hollywood relatively unscathed?
I don't know. I think I was married to Blake fairly soon after coming to Hollywood, and I think so. Being married to this very charismatic man, there wasn't that much scandal. There was some. There were
times
gutter
when
press.
Yes, there were times when the press went to places that weren't true, and in those times you stood up and
spoke about it.
Said that's not true, and you know.
But that's par for the course, really. Yeah.
In the book, you also talk about working on The Sound of Music, and one of the things I was so struck by is walking into the Von Trapp house and feeling the evil in the walls from the Nazi occupation.
Yes.
And I have to say, every time I hear the song Edelweiss, it brings me to tears. I know it's your favorite song, too.
And it's one of my favorites. And of course, we didn't shoot in the real Von Trapp house for Sound of Music. So it wasn't until much later that I happened to visit the real villa where they actually lived. And that's when I felt because after they fled the country, which they had to do, as in the film, Himmler took over that villa, and atrocities there were just terrible.
What is it like knowing that as a new generation sees this film, they'll be introduced to these themes, especially in this political climate?
The film speaks for itself, I think. The decency about it, the music is so lovely, the countryside is so glorious, and it's one of the most beautifully crafted Hollywood movies from they still make wonderful films, but for a while, everything is kind of cyclical or cyclical, which is the word. Things go out of fashion. For instance, I remember Blake, my husband, telling me, everybody said that films about boxing went out of style until Rocky came back. And then, of course, there were all the extra Rocky films. And it's true, for a while, musicals were huge, and then for a while it went out of style, and only low-budget films were made. Well, now look how it's come back.
But it is amazing, though, the longevity of those, of Sound of Music
Of the
and Mary
good
Poppins.
movies that last.
I mean, 50 years plus for both of those films.
West Side Story, also directed by Robert Wise, and so many of the great movies.
And I think it has to do with the themes being timeless, you know.
Yeah, love and family and beauty.
And freedom.
And music.
When was the last time you watched the film?
Oh, when was
Well, together, when we were working on the book.
Did we
watched, we
we go through the
rewatched-
whole thing?
We did. We rewatched every single film together, stopping and starting and stopping and starting, and with me saying, "What were you thinking in that?"
She did it. She's a great interviewer. And there were so many things. Actually, watching the films helped stimulate memory, and then, of course, I kept a lot of diaries when I was younger, and they helped enormously.
Now, earlier I said that you are a grandmother. You're a grandmother to 10 and a great-grandmother to 3. So, Emma, I want to know, what sort of grandma is Julie Andrews?
Well, she's Granny Jules, first of all.
Granny Jules I am.
And she's a wonderful grandma. She's, my kids adore her. When she babysits, she tends to, screen something fun for my daughter, like, let's watch Laurel and Hardy, or something, there's a lot of.
I'm
mac and
actually very
cheese.
interested in where she's at too.
Yes,
But,
it's true.
because I learned from that. Where they're all coming
That's
from.
the other
these
thing.
days.
She asks them a lot of questions. My son, for instance, turned her on to the Punch Brothers, which is one of our favorite groups.
Yeah, I love them.
So she's very interested in learning from them.
It keeps you young having young kids around.
Now, I have one more question for you, and it's that I heard a rumor that you like certain 4-letter words.
Once in a while, yes.
Once in a while, yes. And here at BuzzFeed...
I'm only practically perfect.
Oh, okay. Just nearly perfect.
Yes.
Well, here at BuzzFeed, since we do air on the internet, we are not beholden to some of the same standards as TV networks. So, is there anything you would like to say now without us bleeping?
No, I think I'll let people be surprised in the moment, so to speak. And if I don't feel it, it doesn't come out. I mean, you can talk about that better than I can.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And, one of those 4-letter words prompted your first writing of a first children's book. So it does it's had a purpose.
It's been productive.
Yes,
it has.
Exactly.
Well, it has been so wonderful getting to talk to you
That's
both.
a weird thing that ought we to explain that quickly?
Well, just
Sure,
quickly,
please.
I was playing a game with my kids.
we were not keeping our rooms clean or doing our chores, and she said, "Okay, here's your game. Keep your rooms clean, do your chores, or pay a forfeit, win a prize, or pay a forfeit." And my stepsister said, "Well, you have to play too." And she said, "What do I have to do?" And my stepsister said, "You have to stop swearing." So
And I hadn't realized that I had been.
lose.
I of course, lost immediately.
And so she said, "What's my forfeit?" And my sister Jennifer said, "Write me a story."
What was
And
the word
that's-
that she said?
I can't remember. This is
1970s.
Okay.
It was pretty innocuous, but for them at that age, it probably
That
wasn't.
one was. Well, it has been so delightful getting to talk to you both. Thank you both for joining me.
Very
Well,
pleased to be
thank
here.
you for being here and asking such great questions.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Alex.
Julie and Emma's latest collaboration, Homework, a memoir of my Hollywood years, is available anywhere books are sold, and they're about to embark on a 7-city tour across the country. So safe travels, ladies.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.